Can you imagine being taken seriously ever again if you're someone like Dave Smith or Ian Carroll and told your people that this person is the peace candidate and he's more hawkish than fucking Joe Biden was on this issue? And I can't even believe that's even fucking possible. So you guys realize that the position of Joe Biden was he was allowing flexibility of European countries to buy Russian oil, buy Russian gas. The position of the Trump administration, when he's been public for the last few days, is he putting massive pressure on European countries to stop buying Russian gas, which will destroy their economy and their quality of life. That is a position that even Joe Biden didn't take. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen Joe Biden ever say European countries need to stop buying Russian gas. Never did Biden put pressure on Narendra Modi to stop buying Russian oil and gas. They didn't go that far. So you got to see Donald Trump is not only continuing Joe Biden's policy on Ukraine, he is going further. I explained many times before, I don't want to beat a dead horse for you guys, but I explained that Donald Trump, his job was to sell the Ukraine war to the resistant MAGA base. And there was a lot of big brain thinkers out there who supported Donald Trump who would ask themselves questions like this, Sarah, and they would never come to the conclusion. They were like, man, Donald Trump is anti-establishment. They would never allow him to win. And then he wins, and they're like, man, I can't believe they allowed him to win. Are you going to ask yourself why they allowed your boy to win when you were so sure earlier that they wouldn't? Now, it's obvious now that the reason they allowed Donald Trump to win is because they need the right to complete the ratchet effect. We know what the ratchet effect is when the Republicans shift super hard to the right, Democrats keep it there. Democrats shift it hard to the right even more. Republicans keep it there, and it goes on and on and on again. We just covered how Kamala Harris and Biden played a big part in labeling the left as domestic extremists. So Trump is here to take that on and continue that. The same way with war. The same way with war. The foreign policy, it doesn't change between these puppets in a suit. So it was clear to me that Donald Trump was allowed to win because his job was to sell the war of Ukraine to the MAGA base who was critical of it under Joe Biden. But Sarah,
there you go. He's on now. What are they doing? They're erasing the criticism of Israel. Done. You need to clip that, Nick. That was a fire rant. That was great.
Sarah, I know you remember me saying. I know I definitely said that on DDG at least once. I've been explaining this for like 2 years. I took a lot of chances with it. I had a lot of conversations with friends. I remember I had Jimmy Dore on. I had a conversation with Jimmy. I was like, man, Jimmy, I think you got to really consider the fact that he's going to consider the damn Ukraine war. I've been saying this for years. I was on Glenn Greenwald's show on System Update. You guys don't remember. I remember all this shit. I got a crazy good memory. I was on System Update 2 years ago while I explained to Glenn Greenwald. I was like, man, it don't matter if Trump wins. He got to continue the Ukraine war as well. And then Glenn audience was like, hey, I don't know about that, man. Like, people have been questioning me about this for years, but it was obvious what this was about. You don't have to sell the war with China to the right. That's already locked in. They already hate China.
They hate China. They hate Iran. They hate China. Most of them are cool with Israel. They did have to sell them the war with Russia. And look at it. This is where we're at right now. And this is what MAGA wants, especially right now. They want a very strong man leader, very blustery, very big talk, very bullish. This is playing right into all of it.
I'm gonna see if I can finally make this bigger. Actually, let me see if I can share it this way instead. So Sarah, you want to help me break this tweet down? Because I read this, I'm like, bro, what? I was like, we're gonna take our time and dismantle this shit. Because I don't know who wrote this. It's clearly not Trump. Like, you can tell when Trump write his tweets or
there's not enough capitalizations. The punctuation's too good. Like, it's not Trump.
There's clear Trumpisms. You know what I mean? You can tell. This was written by Marco Rubio. Victoria Nuland.
This is Rubio.
That should have been red flag number one. I remember at the time, like, man, I don't know what the long game is.
Could be,
but I knew that Trump was going to be on some pro-NATO shit the second that he picked fucking Marco Rubio. I could see Kellogg writing it as well.
Yeah, I could see Kellogg writing it. Yeah. Rubio's kind of busy. He's with his friend his Guyanese friend.
Yeah,
they're ready to go. They're ready to do war on Venezuela. So.
Yeah, they were just bragging about committing war crimes to the UN. Man, our government full of gangsters. But let's get into it. And Sarah, feel free to interrupt anytime because this
Go.
is there's a lot we had to break down here. After getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia. So this is how you know Victoria Nuland. Well, I should say Victoria. I'm sorry, that's a Biden person. I probably shouldn't say her. I'm used to roasting her. And this is how you know Marco Rubio wrote this kind of shit because this is the same talking point you hear from NATO supporters all the time. That, hey, man, now is the time for us to pounce on Russia because their economy is weak. Ignoring the fact that Russian GDP growth is literally higher than U.S. GDP growth. Using the metrics that you guys like. I don't even like GDP growth. I don't like stock markets. I don't like none of that shit as a metric for the economy. You know what I mean?
PPP, yeah, we want PPP.
Yeah, based on PPP, GDP growth, all that stuff, Russia is outperforming. You can say BRICS as a whole is outperforming the EU and NATO countries.
They are, yeah. BRICS is outperforming the G7 by far.
But we will get back to that talking point here soon. But you got to see they have to sell the idea that Russia is losing. Right. Why do they have to sell the idea that Russia is weak?
Because we got to get in the game. We got to be ready to get in the game.
Yeah, but it's also because the ruling class, as I explained many times before, they can't sell a war that they are losing.
Right. They got to keep hope alive. We can win this. Let's just stay in it.
Exactly, Sarah. You can't go to your population like, hey, man, we getting our shit kicked in over there. But we can buckle up. The second that you admit to your populace that you're losing, you'll get anti-war movements. The same thing will happen with Vietnam.
Yeah,
a lot of people like to think that
America don't want to acknowledge this, but you can read most even political figures from that time will say that the protests had a lot to do with ending that war. It's the protests and obviously the dead bodies coming home.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to rewrite history and pretend that Americans are just humanitarians.
No.
Many Americans didn't give a fuck about the Vietnam War until they saw dead soldiers. So that's and the ruling class learned their lesson. They can't show them losing. It doesn't matter if facts is not on their side at all. They will always present themselves as a winning position to sell the war. But
it got so serious that Bush had to instate a policy that journalists were not allowed to take photos of the dead bodies of the caskets.
Right. Great callback. So I'm gonna continue here. And once again, Sarah, I'm having a great time. Feel free to interrupt anytime. I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win.
Mm-hmm.
All of Ukraine back to its original form. And just to highlight how far gone Donald Trump is, you guys realize that he means Crimea, right?
Yeah. A couple months ago, he was pretty much said Crimea was gone and it belonged to Russia, but we're back again. It's like blowing with the wind. It's insane.
So remember that entire political theater they had where Donald Trump was fighting with Zelensky?
Yeah.
Only for him to concede to all of Zelensky's demands. Isn't it funny how that worked out? So this is my personal theory. It's anecdotal more than anything. But I think what happened was Zelensky and Trump had that clash at the White House because Zelensky didn't know that Trump was working. I'm using a professional wrestling term. Like you guys saw what happened with Roger Jackson and that white dude he attacked or whatever. Oh. Roger's a dumbass. He's a dumbass and didn't know that the wrestler guy was working him. Is you set up this fake tension in order to sell shit. So Trump was engaging in this psyop to sell the Ukraine war to his MAGA base. So in order to do that, they have to sell the idea that there's you see where I'm going, Sarah?
That's amazing. I didn't even think of it that way. And I always forget that element of Trump, that he is an actor and he does have tons of WWE acting training. Tons of it.
And Sarah, I'm not talking shit because you guys remember they told Zelensky, hey man, you gotta play the game. At the follow-up to the Trump White House clash, they had a lot of meetings with Zelensky and they came to the conclusion that, hey man, hey Zelensky, you gotta learn to play the Trump game. And that's when they had a follow-up meeting and Zelensky, they had that chummy meeting where Zelensky learned to do the Trump thing. You praise Trump. Trump praises you. There's like a MAGA political theater.
And you could tell who's the mobsters because Aliyev out of Azerbaijan picked up on that immediately. He walked out of there with like a treasure chest of deals because he knew immediately I got to grease this guy's palms. I got to schmooze this guy.
Yeah. So the entire time they was working an angle to sell the Ukraine war. And I mentioned that Donald Trump put up these bullshit peace proposals they knew it would fail, put up these expectations that they know Russia wouldn't meet, so they can say that Russia's unreasonable. The problem that Zelensky made in the beginning was that he didn't know the Trump dance. He's used to Biden's dance. You know, Biden, they was like, oh, we stand for human rights. We love Zelensky. Zelensky's doing an amazing idea. So when Zelensky didn't get that treatment for Trump, he was confused and he didn't go along with the Trump dance. That's why they had their clash. Then Trump and his team was like, hey, man, hey, bro, we got you. I tell you this, my theory is they was like, hey, man, we're going to seem like we're pushing you around, but we're playing the game, bro. You got to play along with us. You got to dress up in a suit. You got to play the game. If you play the game, we will take care of you. So that's why Donald Trump is making this quote-unquote pivot. This was always planned. High-stake foreign policy decisions by the empire are not made on whims, guys. They got to prime their populace for these kind of things. So people are shocked by this twist and turn that Trump just made. I'm not at all. Because it was always part of the script. I'm glad that you guys see. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I'm glad you guys see what I'm saying here.
Yeah, you could even see the churn coming when he finally got the contracts in line for the private. Yeah. He was like, we're not paying any more money for this. They're paying us now. So they kind of just had to get that stuff in line. I actually wrote an article about it called The Privatization of Ukraine. And then another article called From Gaza to Donbass, which is how these two wars actually just have become one. And they have. So they're consolidating the wars to consolidate power. But yeah, go ahead. Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's continue. I need to shut the fuck up. Let's continue. He said we're going to fight and win. Get Ukraine back in here. That's where I left off. With time. Go ahead. Sorry, Sarah?
No, go ahead. Yeah, I was just telling where you were.
Oh, cool. I completely forgot. With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original border from where this war started is very much an option. So you guys realize that that's a crazier position that Biden took, right? The position of the Biden administration was that we need to arm Ukraine so they will be in a strong position to negotiate. That was a position that the Biden administration laid out many times before. You guys see why it's important to listen to what your enemies are saying? Why we do propaganda reports and why we listen to these people?
So we read the New York fucking Times. Read the New York Times.
Most people don't even know Biden's position on this stuff, so they don't know this kind of stuff.
But Trump's True Social. I'm not kidding. I have alerts on. He's the only person I follow on True Social.
So if you follow what our government actually did, you will realize this is a position that's actually crazier than Biden. Because Biden didn't even declare that it will be full victory for Ukraine. No point. So Trump is going to Biden's right on Ukraine now. Can you imagine being taken seriously ever again if you're someone like Dave Smith or Ian Carroll and told your people that this person is the peace candidate and he's more hawkish than fucking Joe Biden was on this issue? And I can't even believe that's even fucking possible. So you guys realize that the position of Joe Biden was he was allowing flexibility of European countries to buy Russian oil, buy Russian gas. The position of the Trump administration, when he's been public for the last few days, is he putting massive pressure on European countries to stop buying Russian gas, which will destroy their economy and their quality of life. That is a position that even Joe Biden didn't take. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen Joe Biden ever say European countries need to stop buying Russian gas. Never did Biden put pressure on Narendra Modi to stop buying Russian oil and gas. They didn't go that far. So you guys see Donald Trump is not only continuing Joe Biden's policy on Ukraine, he is going further. Which, to be clear, I didn't even necessarily predict that. I said that Donald Trump was going to continue Biden's policy. Even I didn't know how fucking batshit crazy Donald Trump was going to take it. Let's continue. Oh man, this is you joined me on a very chatty day, but it's always very thought provoking when DDG and RB come together. We have Shama Sawan who joined us on Monday. We have your co-host Chris. He would join us on Friday. So we got a lot of banger shows coming up, my friends.
Oh, you and Chris together. That show's gonna be like 3 hours long.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a deep theory discussion. You already know that could be one hell of a Friday show. Richard Matters is scheduled too. I'm waiting for Richard to rebuild his studio. He already that show that A-Woman asked for the Nick Cruz Richard Matters live stream that's coming. That's gonna be a fucking banger. I can't wait for that. Anyway, let's continue. Just let me know how you're doing on time, Sarah. I told you guys I had a fucking ton of shit to cover.
You're giving me all.
I'm all over the place.
I'm gonna miss my class, and I'm welcoming it. I'm just gonna stay home and read tonight.
Yeah, just let me know in the private chat, Sarah, how you doing on time. He said with financial support in Europe, NATO, he said Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years. This is pure cope. I can't even go one line without fact checking. You guys realize that Russia added territory to their map, right? They liberated eastern Ukraine and these regions who asked to be liberated by the Russian people. That's why Ukraine lost land, that land that they're trying to get back. So how can you say Russia was fighting aimlessly? They accomplished their goal of denazifying Ukraine. Look at all the Nazi Banderite leaders who was murdered during this special military operation. So their goal was to denazify Ukraine, and they accomplished that. They wanted to liberate these areas in eastern Ukraine. They accomplished that. Anyway, let me move on because I can't spend an hour fact checking every line, but it's crazy. Like, are they trying to convince themselves at this point? It's cold. But anyway, Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, a war that should have taken a real military power less than a week to win. This is a line that they use all the time, the self-imposed deadline. It's that Putin said he's going to take over Kyiv in 1 week. And the fact that he didn't do that is evidence that they lost. Once again, you can only interpret it as cope. Like you started a proxy war you can't win. You try to fight Russia and Russia punched you in the mouth. So all they have is cope. They got to tell themselves this stuff to reassure them. Oh, wait, let me continue. This is not distinguishing Russia. In fact, it is very much making them look like a paper tiger. So explain to me, guys, and I point this out, this ridiculousness all the time. I think we alluded to this earlier in the stream. How is Russia a paper tiger? But you guys are so afraid of Russia, you feel like you have to stop them in Ukraine, or are they going to take over the entirety of Europe? Which is it, Sarah? Is Russia weak and has been exposed as a paper tiger?
I mean, I asked that this morning. I said, if Russia's economy is collapsing, why not just wait for it to collapse? You don't even have to do anything. Kind of like what China's doing to us. Why not just wait?
Oh my God, dude, this tweet is so long.
It is long.
All right, Jesus Christ, there's so much bullshit in here. When the people living in Moscow and I'm gonna speed up. When the people living in Moscow and all the great cities, towns, and districts all throughout Russia find out what's really going on with this war, the fact that it's almost impossible for them to get gasoline through the long lines that are being formed and all the other things that are taking place in their war economy, where most of their money is being spent on fighting Ukraine, which has the Great Spirit. Oh my God, dude, this part is actually, I stopped reading this originally, like the first few lines. I didn't really analyze this part to now. So you guys realize that Donald Trump sounds like a fucking American leftist right now. He sounds like me, but speaking on behalf of the Russian people, because I explain all the time, when are we going to get tired of our military-industrial complex hollowing out our communities? This is essentially the same argument they're making for Russia, except Russia has paid maternity leave, except Russia has health care. So I think it's going to ring a little hollow, right, Sarah?
Even so, what do you mean when they find out what's really going on? They're living in it.
Exactly.
They're living there. Like, I mean, I understand that, like, people in Moscow aren't, like, directly affected by the war, but even the people that are directly affected understand it. They hate it, but they understand it.
They understand it more than people in the West do. That's why they support Putin. And
Right.
Russia...
That's not a myth, everybody. Like, he would win if they had elections tomorrow. He would win again resoundingly. Like, that's not a myth. They fully support Putin. I mean, and a lot of them think he's too soft. So, I mean, that should be the indication that you need about this war. I mean, a year ago, multiple people, when I was in Russia, it's been a year, I need to go back. But
I'm going with you guys to DDG next time. Next time you
okay,
go to Russia,
then we'll do that.
and
But when I was back in Russia, they even said, even if Putin stopped the war right now from Moscow, the people in Ukraine would keep going. They're not ready to stop. Now that was a year ago. I don't know if they've changed, but I've heard from today. I mean, Chris talked about it on our stream. There's a ton of soldiers ready to go. A million, I think.
yeah. So essentially, he says, I will continue this. I'll skip ahead a little bit because a lot of it's just bullshit. He essentially talked about Russia is in economic trouble. We already dismantled that. I'll skip to the end here. We will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want to them. Good luck to us, to all. So essentially, the same status quo, but him selling it to his supporters. So
Yeah.
Russia saw that True Social. They're like, nigga, we don't give a fuck.
They don't.
They're like, bro, we don't give a fuck. What are you talking about?
They really don't.
Like, bro, you pussy. We don't give a fuck.
You saw Lavrov's response to the meeting with Rubio was to not even look at the camera and to just give a thumbs up. Like he just.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I should have saved that. Let me see if I can find that. But yeah, they essentially don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they really don't care. They really don't care. But that was the clue at the end. Not the clue, but that was the point of the whole post. We will keep supplying NATO as long as NATO buys our weapons. They can do whatever they want with him. That's the send off to his private donors and his private tech bros at Anduril and Elbet and all the other Palantir, all of them, to say like these contracts are good. We're gonna keep the party going.